Hey everybody! Hold on. I'm trying to figure out how I want to look at you. Welcome to Crystal Masters. I'm so happy to see you. Bookwoman says, I've been relegated to the floor because all the cats have the chairs. Sounds like my house, honestly. Smudgy has declared dominion over all furniture in the house, and I feel like he's still not really into this whole quarantining thing. How's it going today? I'm so happy to see you. I hope you're excited for class. We're going to be doing some really important work today. Today is all about removing unwanted energies from your energy field, which includes your body. It also includes your energetic field, which extends about, as we've talked about before, about 12 inches outside of you. And that is your network. That's your matrix of energy. And that's the part of you that's touching everybody else all the time. You know what I mean? Like, that's the part of you that's connecting with everybody else's energetic field. And also from your spaces. You know, spaces accumulate energy. And so for the first at least hour of our time together today, we're going to be talking and journeying to try and understand where energy is blocked in your life and in your world. Aw, thanks you guys. It's kind of bright and sunny in the room today. It hasn't been very bright and sunny for the last couple of weeks, so maybe my hair looks good just because there's actual light and we're not really sitting in the dark. While your energy field still extends, you're still connecting. I mean, you're not connecting physically with people, but energetically, you better believe it. And there's actually a lot more energetic connection happening right now than there usually is because of how we're distancing physically, which is teaching us about how we interact energetically too. So you are interacting with people on all kinds of levels right now. It just feels a little bit different because it's not as physical as it used to be. But I'll tell you something, a lot of us have this feeling, and tell me if you have it too, but I've been hearing from a lot of you that your intuition is better. And the reason I think that's true is you don't have as much conscious interference in that transmission. And the tools that we're going to be talking about today, if you don't have a Vogel before today, I think you're going to be really inspired to get one afterward. And I don't want you to feel like you have to rush to get one. We will have some at Sage Goddess, I think tomorrow in the shop. And by the way, today we have obsidian extractor needles, if you didn't see those already. But if you haven't been inspired to get one before, I think you're going to feel inspired after today. I will tell you, this one I'm going to work with tonight, and then this is going to be an enter to win for purchases at sagegoddess.com today. So I'm actually going to use this tonight and then send it to one of you. This is only for Crystal Masters, so don't tell anybody else. You don't have to have a code. And so I'll put a post up in our Facebook group when we're done here with class. And then if you have gotten an extractor or anything else today, you can comment over there, and then we'll choose one of you tomorrow and send this off in the mail to you. I know, isn't that fun? It's a really beautiful one. It's self-healed. It has, it's a phantom. Isn't that cool? Which you just don't see very often. So it's a self-healed amethyst phantom Vogel, and it is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's a 13, is that right? 12 side. No, it's 12. It's a 12-sided, and we're going to talk about the specific number of sides of your Vogel tonight. So Team SG is taking notes. Isn't it beautiful? And the 12-sided, just to remind you, but I'll teach you this in just a few minutes. The 12-side is completion of cycles. So if you are releasing or trying to release energy from a time in your life that's behind you where you're ready to let it go, this is the tool to use. It's for cycle completion. Remember, 12 is the number of the signs in the zodiac. It's the number of the months in the year. It's a very powerful number. 1 plus 2 adds to 3, so it's one of the higher frequency numbers too. Isn't it gorgeous? So somebody's going to get that. And then I'm going to teach you about some more advanced tools. This is the most powerful Vogel in my collection. This was actually one of 3 this size that I bought in Tucson, or was it Denver? I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. And the other 2, ooh, I can actually see you better now. One of my lights went out and I actually really like it better. Maybe I shouldn't have that light on when I'm teaching. The other 2 were sold in a live gem sale. So the other two pieces from this collection are out there somewhere. I have not counted the number of facets, but it's a lot. So this is a power tool. Here's what I want you to know though. This is not any more effective than this, truly. Does this channel a higher frequency? Maybe it does. But in my personal opinion, if I was going to do work for myself or somebody else, I wouldn't necessarily have a preference for this one, because this one can do it. So I don't want you to feel like, there's some really fancy Vogels out there on the market, and they're beautiful. And when you look at them this way, they have all these like intricate designs and stuff, and they're super cool. And some of them are in the $3, $5, $10, $50,000 range. I don't have one of those. This is not one of those. Even this one was nowhere near that. So I've seen them at the shows, I've played with them, I've touched them, but I haven't felt like that is a critical tool for anything other than it being a really beautiful piece of art. Does that make sense? So do you have a clear one coming? That's awesome. So tonight's tool, if you have it, some of you don't have it, don't worry. You don't have to have the tool for tonight's class, is this. So this was your tool for this month. Some of them are delayed because I don't know if you know, but the country of India, where these are carved for me, is shut down. And India's had all kinds of problems. I mean, not that we don't have our own problems in the US. So they've been sending these as they've been finishing them. So we've gotten, I don't know how many out. I think about half of you have gotten yours yet, and then the other half are coming. But I would say still wait on it, because there's no way I can get you this for $20 again. Like, even they wouldn't do it. Because it takes hours to carve each piece. So I would say, even if you don't have it tonight for class, I would still look forward to getting it, because it's something that I wouldn't be able to repeat at that price. That was a really special thing that we got for you. Yeah, that's right. So are we working with the needles this month, or do you want me to focus on the, I want to show you the needles because that's the focus of our extraction work. Yeah, so don't worry. Even if your tool is coming, you don't have to worry. It is coming. It may not be in your hands right this minute, but I also do want to talk to you about tuning forks tonight, because that is the other tool that you can use to move energy. And it's a very powerful tool. It does not work the same way as an extraction needle or a Vogel because of the quartz. And I'm going to talk to you about that too. There's a reason why most extraction needles are carved out of quartz or aventurine, which is a quartz-based material. Well, we can talk about the frequencies too in the tuning forks, because I do think that's relevant and helpful for you guys to know about. Yeah, and you've been able to get 2 of the tuning forks, Kenneth has. So anyway, I think you guys are going to be really excited by tonight's content. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, where to begin? I'm going to begin by smudging. We just talked about the frequencies, but I still want to talk about it a little bit tonight, because it's a layering of modalities. Do you know what I mean? It's when I do extraction, I use the tuning forks at the same time, because sound is a powerful way to move energy. Again, it's not the same as having an extraction needle. It's not the same as having a Vogel because of the quartz, but it's powerful in its own right. I'm happy to be here with you guys too. It's so sweet to have these classes and this way to connect during this time when, it's all about moving and clearing energy right now. And I think the more tools you have in your toolkit, and I don't just mean physical tools, I mean knowledge and wisdom, the better you're able to navigate this time. That's my hope and my intention for you anyway. Oh, you guys are so cute. And you can always move the chat off to the side, like if you want. If you're not seeing enough of me, I can still see you, but you can always move your chat off to the side if you want to not be as distracted by it. That's totally up to you. Some people do that while they're listening and learning, and then later they go in and look at the comments. Oh yeah, all of that's coming. I think you guys are going to really enjoy tonight's class. I will say tonight is really the coming full circle of everything that I have learned about moving and removing energy over the last, I really started learning about energy and how to move energy in my early 20s. And, I'm turning 47. So everything I'm giving you tonight is kind of the best of my 25-year journey into understanding the nature of energy, how it moves, including the chakras, because it's all related. So there will be times in our class where I talk about things that you might think, well, why are we talking about chakras when we're talking about energetic extraction? But that's because the chakras are the wheelhouses, right? They're the centers of your energy system. And energy tends to coagulate around the chakras. So the drum journey I have planned for you tonight is actually going to stop at each chakra. We're going to start at the root and go to the crown. And we're going to try to understand what kind of energy is stuck in that particular chakra for you. What might be stuck in your root chakra may not be the same for me, or I may not have anything in my stuck in my root, but then you get to my sacral and it's all kinds of, interrupted. And so we're going to look at those. That's right. They're like the hub of each one of your energy centers. They are the hub, and then the energy moves through them like gears. Remember that chakra in Sanskrit means wheel. And so they really are these sort of spinning discs of light. And so that's why we're going to talk about those in this context tonight too. What if your worst stuck pain is in a place you can't reach yourself? That's okay. That's okay. You don't have to physically touch the area. And that's the other thing I want to talk to you about, especially with the extractor needles. And I'm going to try to make sure there's time at the end tonight for you guys to ask questions and just have open, free-flowing discussion, because you might be like, well, what if my pain is here? What if my pain is there? And where would you recommend activating? So let's say, I'm working on my shoulder. I work my hands for the upper body and my feet for the lower body with the extractor needles. That's one of the things I really want to teach you, because your hands and your feet and the top of your head are really the inflow, outflow of energy in your body. We talked about this when we studied the meridians, right? And the chi lines. And so if I'm working on my left shoulder, I'm actually going to be using the extractor on my left hand. And sometimes I will, if I'm working on my left shoulder and noticing that that's not helping, I'll actually activate my right hand, because it might be referred pain, right? Pain that isn't at the center or the side where it seems like it's originating. Same thing with lower body. So if I'm having hip pain, I'll actually use the needle on my foot, if that makes sense. And then if I'm having anything sort of above the heart, then I will use the needle on the top of my head around the soft spot. And so that's where you want to activate the energies, and you do that as almost like a primer for then removing the energies, sort of like reflexology. Does that make sense? So, I don't want you to imagine that we're going to be going in here in your face and stuff. I mean, you can, and it feels really good, and it's prickly, and it does move the energy around. But when it comes to the extractor needle, you're working the energies, at least for me and the way I do it, on my hands and feet. And then the Vogel is where you go into the actual area around. And if you can't move the energies right where it is with the Vogel, I mean, again, we're not making physical contact. It's an energetic exercise. So you just get as close as you can to remove. And so we'll talk about that too. So yeah, so for back pain, you're going to figure out which side it's on, and you might try your hands and your feet. Especially if it's like lower back pain, sciatic pain, you might want to activate the palms of the hands and the feet, the soles of the feet, because it doesn't hurt. And you can, if you have acupressure or acupuncture training, you can certainly incorporate those modalities from that training too. So here's my experience is this helps with every type of physical condition. And it even helps, like I've had a low-grade headache all day, and I haven't taken anything for it or had any caffeine or anything for it, because I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do the energy work on it. So my hope is that you will learn something tonight that helps you shift pain and discomfort. And what I've noticed too is there's a cumulative effect, meaning the more you do this, the better it gets. Because here's the thing to know about energy work and contractions and how they lead to pain. That didn't happen to you overnight. It's not like your heart was broken yesterday and now all of a sudden you've got hip pain today, right? It's like it could have been a trauma from 20, 30 years ago that you have been like steadily contracting on for decades, right? And then all of a sudden you have this pain, and there's no rational source for it. And then you start to put the pieces together, and you go into journey, and you realize the connection, you start to visualize it, and then you go in and you activate the energy lines and move the energy, and slowly but surely see an improvement. And it's been working for me, which is why I'm teaching it to you. I'm super passionate about it. In fact, we are the first people to bring these extractor needles to the market. I really believe in them. And it absolutely can work for your throat chakra or anything else. So we're going to go through every chakra tonight in our journey, trying again to unearth kind of where your little landmines might be, because we all have landmines energetically, and it just is a process of becoming aware of them. Okay, so I'm going to ring my bell, tell you that session 2 is officially beginning. And yeah, if you do have your psychic surgery perfume, I was going to tell you, in addition to the tools that we talked about, there are 2 perfumes that I really like to work with when I'm moving really dense energy. One of them is psychic surgery, because the ingredients in psychic surgery, which are ginger lily, which is a tranquilizer, relaxes you, osmanthus, which transmutes energy, it's very powerful for that purpose, and then narcissus, which is about internal power, but also clarity of vision. So that is psychic surgery. So if you have that, I put mine in a bigger bottle. So this is my psychic surgery. And then this is Madre Tierra. I like to work with Madre Tierra because it's all of the heavy hitter oils. There's Palo Santo, there's white sage, there's myrrh, there's, it's just a heavy hitting, very grounding blend. So those are the 2 that I work with when I'm doing major work like this. You can work with whatever you have that resonates with you. M3, if you have it, would be another really good one to call in some Mother Mary energy. Some people like to work with Merlin when they're doing big extraction energy, which is why we have Merlin products. If you don't have any of those perfumes, then choose one, you know, with your intuition. Sushumna would be fantastic, because again, we're working with the central channel. These are just my favorites for this particular work, but you don't have to have them. I don't think, we do have psychic surgery still on the website, but I don't think we have Madre Tierra. So yeah, so if you have Merlin, if you have M3, if you have Ceremony perfume would be another really good one. Elder Council would be another really good one, because it's got a lot of those heavy hitter. Medicine Space would be another good one. The one you made this week, that's an interesting question. That's a power blend. I would want to add a few notes to the one from Soul Shift from this week, because that's more about power and success, but it doesn't have the protective layer to it, the transmutation energies associated with it. So I would want to add frankincense, myrrh, white sage, Palo Santo, something for transmutation would be what I would recommend. Helmavah would be good, but might be too protective. So just be gentle with that. That is a heavy duty, that's like arcs, that's like big, big, big protection energy. So maybe an overkill, but probably can't hurt to try. So anyway, use your intuition, but these are the ones that sort of come to mind for me. Track would be another good one. I think Track would be good. Master Healer is good. If you have Seer, that can be really helpful too, because Seer has some really powerful third eye opening, or if you have Vision Quest, the old Vision Quest. I'm at the end of my bottle of the old Vision Quest. That's another good one. Cause, another really good one for going into this kind of work. What other questions do you have? Elohim would be really good for it. Temple would be good for it too. Oh, Madre Tierra is on the website still. I need another bottle. Another bottle of Madre Tierra. Boom Shiva is good, but it's not protective. So you want to have something that has some of the more grounding, more stabilizing, the vetiver, the Palo Santo, the patchouli, the white sage, the myrrh, the frankincense, the labdanum would be good, but again, you want something even more sort of grounding underneath all of that. Is that helpful? Okay, good. So let me start with everything that we're going to be doing tonight. Okay. Oh, Dambarite is the other stone that you can be working with for tonight. And I will, let me grab my wand really quick so I can show you. This is Dambarite. This is actually a double terminated Dambarite wand with tourmaline. But that is Dambarite. It terminates differently from quartz. It's got sort of a flat termination as opposed to a pointed termination. Almost looks like a little wafer. And so Dambarite is a psychic surgeon too. So if you happen to have a double terminated, like this can be an extraction tool because of its double terminated nature and the fact that it's Dambarite. It's a cool one, isn't it? Okay, let me set that aside. So we're going to do a multi-step process tonight that I hope you really enjoy. And Danburite's a fun one to work with, and you can really experiment with Danburite and play with Danburite. Danburite's also good for sleep disturbances. So if you are having sleep disturbances, it is not at such a high frequency. Like quartz, you don't want to work with when you're trying to get more rest. No, you don't need a perfume, Sarita. It's just that most people in my classes tend to blend the modalities, and so I usually get questions about which ones to work with. But if you're not into oils, if you're not miraphoric in your practice, if that's not something important in your practice, then I would disregard it. You don't have to work with oils. They just add in these other layers of energy and sort of form like another protective layer over the work that you do. And I try to incorporate them when I can. Okay, so first we're going to talk about what intrusions or energetic blockages really are, what they look like, and how they come to be. And again, just with my best wisdom about how this evolves for most people, given my experience and what I've seen over these years, especially these last 9 years through Sage Goddess, I've gotten to witness a lot of people's process and what tends to happen when they're experiencing energetic interference or intrusion. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to do a journey to try and locate your interference, to figure out which of your chakras is blocked, because that's going to give you some hint about maybe where to focus your healing work. And you don't have to do the journey every time you want to do this work. I mean, if you just are like, my shoulder's hurting, I just want to activate, release, and move, you don't have to journey every single time. But it's good to journey at the beginning of learning how to do this so that you become sensitive. And then this is something, because I am training you ultimately to do this work with other people, this becomes something that you can do with people, a tool in your toolkit, again, to help people come to awareness about where they may have blockages and to teach them about their energetic system, because a lot of people, especially if you're a crystal healer, they're going to come to you. They may not know how energy flows in the body. They may intuitively sense that something's wrong, like, why do I have this pain, or why am I not able to sleep, or why do I feel anxious all the time? They may intuitively know something is off, but they're unlikely in a lot of cases to know why that is. Is that helpful? Okay. Then I'm going to teach you portal protocol. Before we release energy, we have to do what's called opening a portal. And if you've been with me for a while, you've heard me talk about this before. I'm reading your questions, and I'll try to get to them as quickly as I can, but I also want to kind of stay focused as we go through. But I promise to leave some time at the end for more questions too. So when you release or remove energy, you have to remember that energy is real. And energy, if you just, let's say I've got stuck energy in my body, in most traditions, the belief is when you release that energy, you don't want to just leave it sitting in the room. You want to really release it from the space. And I have had so many teachers over so many years use different metaphors to explain what this process looks like. One of my earliest teachers, who was teaching me in my 20s, taught me to look at my own energy field and the rooms that I'm in, and so I'll teach this to you too today, as a pool table. It's a really interesting metaphor. And so I want you to imagine that your body, and indeed the room that you're in, is a pool table with pockets at the four corners. And so when you remove energy, you want to send that energy down those pockets, out of your field, out of the room. You can even do out of the city, out of the country kind of thing. Pockets, pockets, pockets. Whenever I say that, I always think of her. Pockets, pockets, pockets. Empty your pockets, right? So it's a really interesting metaphor, and hopefully one that resonates with you too. Obviously, I've never forgotten about it all these years later. So getting the change out of your pockets is really important. And so, but then my belief is you have to go a step beyond that. It's really important. Even if it's out of the room, so now is it now sitting at the four corners of your property? Where is it now? So I like to give, especially heavy, dense energy, I like to give that to more powerful beings than I am. So I like to assign what I call portal keepers. So when we open a portal, we're basically opening up that we're basically opening up those pockets, and we're saying to our portal keepers, and I have certain deities I tend to work with, but I think that you should probably think about choosing your own and ones that resonate with you. But I tend to assign keepers to that portal and ask them to take that energy on my behalf and release it transmute it, transform it into usable white light. So it gives sort of a pathway for the energy to go. It gives a more powerful being than I am dominion to hold and transmute and transform. And it guarantees that that energy didn't just leave my shoulder but go sit in the corner of the room or leave the corner of the room, but now it's sitting outside next to that tree. It's about the intention, and it's also about the process. And so what I like to say is you got to give energy a trajectory and permission to leave. So this energy needs to leave, and it needs to leave through this portal way and be transformed. I give permission to these portal keepers to transform this energy into usable white light. And then after that, it's really important to be mindful and intentional about what energies you invite back in to your body, to your mind, to your spirit, to your space, to replace that residency. So you're evicting somebody, but now you got to fill up that guest room again. And so that's when we want to work with, and it's up to you, angels, archangels, light beings, ascended masters. You can call in different energy streams to come through and support you and to fill in those spaces with a different frequency. And so that is the last part of the process. Then we close the portal. You don't want to leave your pockets open. It's like leaving your fly open. You always have to close your portal and dismiss your portal keepers, because otherwise it's sort of like not releasing the guardians of the directions, right? It's like they're like, what are we supposed to be doing now? And then smudge and clear your space, close your circle, and on we go. Bear with me just a second. Oh, there it is. I'm going to be talking a lot tonight, and my lips are getting dry. I don't want to be that teacher. So thank you for letting me pause. Do you guys have any questions before we start? Does that structure kind of make sense to you? Kind of how we're rolling tonight? Oh, I like that. Nathan says he's going to dedicate his obsidian angel to serve as his portal keeper for this work. I like that a lot. It's very, very good. Okay, so Crystal said, what about when smudging? I usually ask Pachamama or Gaia to take my unwanted energy that does not serve my highest good and clear it into the light. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about that in just a second, because in most cases, that's all you need to do. You know, when we're releasing, when we're clearing and extracting, sometimes it's a heavier, denser energy, not sort of your everyday run-of-the-mill, like whatever's in the room, right? Yeah, I will be opening a circle. I still think you should journey even if you're not extracting, because then when you do extract, like I think you should journey with me tonight, and I think you should journal even if you're not extracting, because you're not doing anything harmful. You're just gathering data, right? So that when you do go back and decide, yeah, I'm ready to extract, then you kind of know where you're starting from. So I would do it anyway. Everything's in the notes, Charlene. All you have to do is sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Can you direct energy into a crystal instead of a portal? You can. You can, but then what are you going to do with it? I mean, you can if you're going to bury it, I think, or if you're going to release it to the elements. If you're going to go give it to the ocean or, bury it in the earth, and I think so. But if you're just going to leave it sitting in your room, I don't think so. It's good to really, really, really release. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm so glad. No, sometimes a bunch of portal keepers come forward. It just depends. Sometimes, for whatever reason, Kuan Yin always comes forward for me as a portal keeper, and kind of always has. And sometimes you'll get animal spirit allies who come forward, like leopard will come forward or jaguar will come forward, which is okay too. I mean, they're powerful beings and they carry their own energy streams, right? Danu would be a great keeper. She's the mother goddess. I mean, there's some of those matriarchal goddesses like Danu and Inanna, right? Very powerful, so powerful. Okay, Black Jaguar would be a great guide to have show up for this work, don't you think? Okay, all right, so let's begin. There's a couple of other things I wanted to tell you first, and it actually relates to the questions that came up. First of all, most of your intense healing tools are going to be quartz. The exception are the extractors that are on sagegoddess.com today, and let me tell you why. Kombucha break. The Aztecs The Aztecs actually had a whole set of ceremonies just to remove energy from the body. And most of the tools they worked with were single terminated, the Aztecs, very much like this wand. If this was made out of obsidian, this would be like the ultimate Aztec energetic removal wand. So the way the Aztecs did it is they would have someone standing, so they would have the medicine person standing facing you, and you would be standing with your arms outstretched. And they would move the energy from the top of the head, down the arm and out, and then down the other side from the top of the head, down the arm and out. And they believed that obsidian was the purest form of fire ever created and had the absolute power to clear energy, unlike any other material. And the Aztecs worked with quartz, so it wasn't like they didn't have quartz in their arsenal. They did. They just chose obsidian. So if you have a single terminated obsidian wand, that's a great tool to work with. The needles from today on the site are extractors, but they still count as single terminated. And so if you don't have a single terminated obsidian wand, you could use that tool two ways. You could go through and do that work, and then you could also use it to activate the chi lines, the way I'm going to teach you tonight with the extractor needle. So that's kind of a fun 2-in-1. But other than that, all extracting tools that I will ever bring you will be quartz based. So amethyst, quartz, aventurine, rose quartz, smoky quartz, all in that family. Because, and this goes back to Marcel Vogel, a blade is good, Cindy, but it's a different shape and a different energy. So it's not that it's not effective, and it definitely can be used to cut cords and narrow cords if that's what you want to do. And that's, I'm not teaching that tonight, but that is another way of removing energy. It's not, what we're doing is slightly different than that. And we can talk more about that if you want to. But athames and swords are used to cut cords for the most part, and to delineate lines, you know, energy lines between my field and your field. So they're more of a cutting as opposed to an extracting. But I'm glad you asked. Okay, so this is all goes back to Marcel Vogel. Marcel Vogel believed, by the way, who is Marcel Vogel? He worked for IBM for a long time. He was a scientist, an engineer, and he started having these lucid dreams. Yeah, labradorite too is a feldspar material. We did have labradorite too because a lot of people wanted to, well, anyway, we can come back to that. But most of the tools I'm going to give you are quartz based. There may be an exception. Labradorite's an exception. Although you do find quartz in feldspar, so it's possible that there's still a quartz mineral structure in there. Lorian just hurt herself. Be careful with that needle. It really will, you don't want to push too hard. You will draw blood. Okay, so Marcel Vogel worked for IBM, and he started having these lucid dreams. And in his lucid dreams, he was being shown the Kabbalah Tree of Life, which I have my computer here to show you. If you've never seen the Kabbalah Tree of Life, this is what it looks like. I think I made it too big. Hold on. There we go. This is what the Kabbalah Tree of Life looks like. And it is wider at the top and narrower at the bottom. And it represents the 7 chakras, the energy centers, as well as the flow of energy. It really is sort of a microcosm, macrocosm. Your body is a tree of life. Your cells are their own little tree of life. The universe is a tree of life. So it's like these, it's a representation of the nature of reality. Yeah. And again, we don't have time to go through the whole rabbit hole of the Kabbalah Tree of Life, but that's what inspired Marcel Vogel. So Marcel Vogel had this dream, and he was told that his had to be carved from really optically clear quartz. And the reality is there is some data, scientific data, to suggest that you can run a higher, tighter frequency with clear quartz, optically clear quartz, than you can with quartz that you can't see through. So Marcel Vogel would say that this tool is more powerful than this tool because of the clarity. Some of the original needles, if you got the quartz ones, because the smoky quartz is by its own nature mostly occluded, but the original needles you got were clearer, the quartz ones, and so those would be along the same lines as this. By the way, this is a 6-sided Vogel, which is interesting to compare with the 1,000-sided Vogel, right? And again, each number of sides has different meanings. So Marcel Vogel believed it had to be an absolutely crystal clear piece of quartz, and that the number of sides, so he was shown that it had to be wider at the top, narrower at the bottom, just like the Kabbalah tree of life. And then he was shown that the number of facets, so he had to carve this quartz, wider at the top, narrow at the bottom. Top is the feminine, bottom is the masculine. That he had to carve a specific number of sides. So like, again, this one is 6-sided. This one is 12-sided. Do you see? And that each one of the different numbers of sides had different meanings, a lot of them based on sacred geometry. If you are just moving day-to-day energy, the best tools to work with are feathers. Again, if you're cutting cords, an athame or a sword to cut a cord is perfectly fine. If you're trying to delineate the boundary or edges of a circle, which we will in just a minute, selenite is okay for that. A rattle, you can, and I've taught you how to shake off energy with a rattle. It's a really great way of just, think of that as like your daily debris, the stuff that you pick up because you talk on the phone to people, or you know, have a tussle with your spouse or whatever, like the day-to-day stuff. And feathers can be used outside the field, or you can literally go through and it feels good too. But it's a lighter removal of energy than what we're talking about tonight. That's your daily maintenance. And once you do sort of the bigger extraction, like we're talking about tonight, it's nice if you can get into a habit of smudging, using your feather, rattling a little bit, because that will help to keep you, as my current teacher says, exfoliated. It's very important. This particular teacher is so funny. You know, she's like, we think about exfoliation because we don't want to get pimples on our faces or wrinkles, right? But we don't think about our soul and how much our soul gathers this dirt and this energy, and it in every conversation or exchange, every moment, right? And that we need to keep exfoliated too, spiritually. So this is a way of exfoliating, but not the broader work that we do. So I want to talk about intrusions for a second. Okay, and we'll come back to more of your questions. And by the way, Cecilia is asking a really important question for this moment, which is, how often can you do this? I think you can do it all the time. Depends on how much time you have for ceremony, because you do need to open a circle. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be long. I mean, the actual process of extraction is pretty quick. It's more the setup, the intention, because you always want to set an intention before you do sacred work. That's what separates sacred work from you just waving a crystal wand in the air, right? Is really your intention. So you want to be mindful, you want to drop in, you want to set an intention, you want to open a circle, you might want to drum just a little bit to see if there's any clarity. You may want to run your pendulum and ask some questions of your spirit guides. So yeah, and so Kimberly, you can just once a day through your field with your selenite wand. Remember to always do both axes, right? So you want to do your vertical and your horizontal axes. You know, just moving through the field is all you need to do on a daily basis to sort of slough off what happens over time. But you'll find that if you like stop doing it for a week, then all of a sudden it doesn't quite feel clear after just one pass. You know what I mean? So you may have to go through and do a rattling ceremony or a drumming ceremony or a shaking ceremony and really move the energy. And all of those things are very effective. And you see those practices kind of vary by culture, by tradition, you know, by ceremonial practices. So even shaking, physically shaking, if you don't have anything else, just, you know, you're somewhere and it gets weird, you can just shake it off, shake it off like Taylor Swift taught us. Okay, so let's talk about intrusions. One of the traditions that I really like is the Q'ero shaman tradition of Central and South America. And they talk about dense energy. We've talked about this before. They call it hucha. And hucha is, again, this kind of day-to-day energy. Hucha tends not to be the really dense, really stuck energy. Hucha tends to be the residual of being a human being. You know, you get angry and so you feel that tension in your body, or you get really sad and so all of a sudden your vibration is diminished because of that. Hucha is the daily sort of dead cells, to use that exfoliation metaphor again, that you accumulate just by being human and going through life. And so in their tradition, they give that to Pachamama. And you can visualize that a couple of different ways. So this is, again, just an easier day-to-day if you don't want to do the whole extraction and you don't really have a big issue that you're addressing or that you're trying to move. And so that can be a process of just even meditating, coming into connection with Pachamama, asking her to take this from you because it's too heavy for you to carry, visualizing the transfer of the energy from her to you, and then letting her take it and compost it. That doesn't involve opening a portal and all of these other things. Some people really do still do ceremony around the release or the transmutation of Hucha. And so that's sometimes what they'll do with a despacho, right? They'll gather up everything. They'll gather up talismans that represent the energy they're trying to release. And then they'll bury that despacho as an offering to Pachamama. And again, that creates a container. So however you do your energy work, one of the main things I want you to take away from today's class is create a container. If the energy isn't that stuck, isn't that dense, isn't that old, isn't that painful, then it's a sloughing and it's easier and you don't have to create as much ceremony around it. If you feel like it's really intense, like if you're really trying to heal from that heartbreak 30 years ago, that isn't a daily slough. That's that's the removal of a barnacle. And so that's what I'm really talking about tonight. Like, if you're like, you know what, I really want to heal that once and for all. I think it's showing up in my body. I think it prevents me from experiencing the fullness of joy that I'm entitled to. That's the stuff I'm talking about tonight. Does that make sense? And I really want to make that distinction because it isn't always like that. And you don't have to clean off particles every single day. That's what makes this a little bit of a different ceremony. But I do want you to have tools in your toolkit to do this, because let's say you do have a barnacle at some point, or let's say you do have a client who's coming to you and they're like, I think you're the only person who can move this thing. It's so big and it's so heavy. I don't want you to feel like, oh, well, I can't do that, or that's overwhelming, or I don't want to be in danger, or I don't know how to do that. I don't want you to feel like you don't have tools in your toolkit to be able to address those larger energy shifts that have to happen sometimes. So today's about preparing you for not your everyday experience with yourself or someone else, but I bet you'll come across this a couple of times. And if you learn how to do it yourself, then you'll be able to help other people. So yeah, acute pain usually means acute energy. Okay? Acute pain usually means acute energy. The underlying issue that comes up in the form of really acute pain is usually a pretty severe underlying energetic issue. There's usually a correlation between the amount of pain that you're in and the amount of energy that needs to be moved. So that's more what we're talking about. Somebody asked a question, how do you know what needs to be moved for a client? That's the process of the work that you do. That's how, when you start to work with a client, and it's almost like, any other healing client relationship, you got to get to know who they are. You got to take a little bit of a history. What's going on there? What are they showing up in your office or your healing space for? You can journey with them, right? And during the journey, you might, if you're willing to journey for them while they're journeying, you might download information about, oh, I'm seeing this, I'm sensing that. And as a psychic and a medium myself, I'm constantly, like, when I do readings for Soul Shift every Wednesday at 2, like, I start to see into people in different areas where they have blockages. And so over time of developing those relationships, you develop this ability to sense what's going on. And then it becomes a dialogue. Okay, so does this person want to move this? And are they asking you to do that? Are they authorizing you to do that, right? This isn't work you'd want to do on somebody's behalf without their very express permission. But it does give you a way of saying, you know what, this doesn't have to just be about the fluff. We can really move some heavier energies if you're ready to do it. Does that help? So I'm glad that you guys asked that question. Okay, so let's open a circle. Yeah, rattling is one of my favorite things to do too. It clears the mind, it clears the space, it clears the field. It's so powerful in so many ways. Rattling is an incredible modality. And you don't have to have fancy things to do it. Like drums get expensive because if they're really gonna work and have that effect, you gotta have a good drum, but rattles are a little different and more fun and more flexible. I like them a lot. Rain sticks too, I love those too. Those are one of my favorites as well. All right. Ooh. I want you to roll your shoulders back, bring your energy into present time. I'm glad you guys are excited. I'm excited too. And so I want you to imagine our collective now, and everybody who will watch this later, all of us together. I want you to imagine out of your left hand a white beam of light that is extending out of your left hand and to your left, and will wrap itself around everybody who's joining again live tonight and those who will watch later, and feeling that energy, that beam going around clockwise, crossing continents and oceans and bodies of water to connect to you where you are in this moment. And when it comes back to you, it'll come back to you in your right hand. And I want you to imagine feeling the weight, but also the warmth of that energy circle that connects all of us across these boundaries that divide us in so many ways. And I want you to feel that white beam of light come up through your arm, over your shoulder, down through your central channel, sort of bathing all of your chakras in that white light of peace and beauty and joy, healing. And while you hold this, let's invite in the guardians of the four directions to be with us. So guardians of the East, we welcome you into our ceremony circle tonight as we gather to release energies that are no longer in service to our highest collective good. We welcome you in for energies of clarity and vision, being able to see from an elevated perspective, to be able to detach from these energies with some measure of objectivity is also a gift of the guardians of the East. And we welcome you with gratitude. To the guardians of the South, we call you in tonight for strength and power and transformation and transmutation. The ability to take these energies in their current form and transform them into usable light is a gift of the guardians of the South. So we welcome you into the ceremony space. And to the guardians of the West, that's the water gateway, creating space for these energies to flow and move. And you have to imagine the movement of these energies from one part of your body or one part of your energy field as they leave you. It is very much a water, it's a flow. And so that's the gift of the guardians of the West, is they create this effortlessness to move that energy. It's a very fluid movement. And I think you'll even see, hopefully, in my hand movements tonight, that it almost looks like water. It almost looks like tracing the infinity symbol, the removing of energy from the field. And so we welcome in the guides and the guardians of the West to support us in this flow of energy tonight. And then to the guides of the North for protection and patience and strength and grounding in the North. The standstill direction, where we learn to slow our own thoughts to become more mindful and more present in this moment. And that's a gift too, because the more present you are in this moment, the more accurate your read is going to be in a few minutes of where these pockets of energy are that need to be removed from your own field. So that's the gift of the guides of the North in our circle this evening. And we welcome them in. And with that, our circle is open. The container is created. Feels good. That's kind of fun. And you do, like, over time, as you do more and more and more, you start to go, oh yeah, now I know the circle's open because my hands are warm. It's like you start getting these little physical signals that you've dropped in, and I love that too. Okay, so I think with no further ado, this is my portal drum. This drum was made for me. I let the artist who made the drum just kind of take the lead on the design. So he chose the colors from my hair. And yeah, we're journeying tonight. In case you missed the first part of class, we're journeying tonight to help you understand where energy needs to be removed from your field. And so you may have an intuitive idea about that, like, oh, I know it's my root chakra, or I know it's my sacral chakra, but the drum is going to reinforce that wisdom for you. So we're going to take just It's not going to be a long journey, but we're going to move through the chakras tonight just to kind of allow you to connect. I also think for the time that we're in, this is a nice opportunity for you to ground yourself too. And the more grounded you are, I'm telling you, when you do this work, the more effective it is. This is not the time to be flying high and upper chakra spinning. This is the time to be very embodied, very connected, because the more grounded you are, the more clear your insight will be. And again, if you're doing this with a client at some point, the more grounded you are, the more able you will be to help them too and get wisdom for them. Okay, so anyway, the symbol on this is called the Hunab-Ku, also known as the galactic butterfly, and it is a portal between worlds. It was part of our Soul Shift logo last year, because I think of Soul Shift as really, it's a class designed to cross portals, to take you into other dimensions for the purpose of gathering wisdom and information to transform your life. So that's why it was part of our logo last year. Oh, that's okay. So like Annette's not feeling like she can do this right now, and that's okay. Like if you aren't feeling grounded, it's probably better to do it at a separate time. I think the more grounded you can be, although I would still say if you're open to it, stay for the journey and try to journal afterward. You don't have to do the extraction work tonight, but if it's possible, because there's something about being live, not to say you can't go back and watch the recording, but I do think there's a power in staying and doing the journey and then sitting with some of the information and the questions that are coming up, because I think it'll give you a lot of insight, and the journey itself might really calm you. Might really calm you and center you and settle you too. So that's my hope. Yay! Yeah, I don't like to convince people to do things they don't want to do. Like that's not my jam, but there are times where I'm like, give it a minute. You never know. I always feel better after I'm done with a little bit of drumming. Yeah, for sure. I'll take a picture of the drum and post it in the group for you so you don't have to study it too hard. But this is an amazing man who does amazing work. Even the back of the drum is beautiful. So if you're looking for drums, Alexis and I can point you in their direction. I don't get any benefit from doing that. I just, if you want one, I think it's good for you to know where to get one, but you don't have to have a drum, and you don't have to have a big drum, right? Yeah, you can lay down too. Yeah, so not now, but I'll direct you later. And so to begin this journey, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to start to feel the call. You know, just on the other side of your human awareness, there's always a call to something deeper, to something more meaningful, something more powerful, something invisible that connects us all. And that's one of the beautiful things about the drum, is it's a manifestation of the call. So I want you to start to lean into the call of your spirit today. Some part of your spirit asked for this. I don't believe in accidents. Some part of your spirit wants to let this stuff go. Led you to a good place to do it. Why this place? Why this time? We planned this a long time ago. I don't think there's ever been a better time to release energy than there is right now. You better believe you can do this on behalf of the planet too. There are healers out there doing this work, this exact work that we're doing, but for the planet. So if you start feeling that call, why not? Same protocol. And I'll tell you, if I was getting ready to do this on you, like if you were here in the room, I would be pounding this drum with everything I got. I wouldn't be playing it gently. I'd be using the mallet and really going for it. But I'm keeping this quiet because I want you to be able to hear me. Maybe I'll make a recording though of like the real drumming. And just being with your breath right now, letting it take you where it wants you to go. Letting go of your conscious thought process. Even starting to let yourself lose track of the room that you're in would be good. Loosening some of the tethers of time and space. We're going to go back now to you, ages 0 to 5. Let's go back to the womb. This is your root chakra. What was happening energetically for you from womb time to 5? And can you track in your body any place where there's still energy from that time sitting, not knowing how to move or where to move? Giving those energies permission to speak to you tonight, tell you a story. A story you might remember, a story you might not. What does little you, pre-5 you, need to tell you tonight? What's your energy in your body and where it's sitting, where it's stuck? I'm journeying right along with you. You often find that powerful spiritual people have an awakening early in life. It can sometimes be a trauma. And those don't need to be resolved, just acknowledged. So that's area 1. That's area 1. And so now we go to you, 6 years old, to puberty, sacral chakra. Becoming aware of yourself as separate from your parents, as one who has desire. Becoming aware of pleasure, union. Becoming aware of norms in society, what's right and what's wrong. What does you, aged 6 to 13, have to tell you right now about where energy isn't moving? Why? Mine's all solar plexus at this time. Just listen, just notice. We're not fixing, we're just noticing. It's a guide, it's a map. And now you, 14 to 21, solar plexus. Thinking you know what's right and what's wrong because you're all grown up now. Individuation. Becoming your own person, aware of your will, the that you can affect change. Yeah, all sexual abuse and trauma is usually in the sacral, but it can show up in the solar plexus. What did it do to your center of power? Just listen. But if it comes up in your solar, don't be surprised. This is us about worthiness. What are you worthy of? What are you not worthy of? Listen to the story, even if you've heard it before. Now let's go to you, age 22 to 30, heart chakra. Integration of the masculine, the feminine, union, procreation, heart center, creating your own family in the world for some of you. Learning what it's like to be hurt, but still being able to trust that not everyone will hurt you. Listen to the story. We're not trying to fix it or change it. We're just acknowledging it as a guide. What's happening in the heart space. You, age 30 to 38. Throat chakra. Finally knowing your truth. Being able to assess whether you're living life authentically or not. Knowing the sound of your own voice. Learning not to sell yourself short. It's the 30s. Who are you? Listen to the story. Who have you always been? And who aren't you? You're not that thing they said you were. The 30s bring the bravery to step out of your own story, step out of other people's stories without apologizing. And you, aged 38 to 45, third eye. This is when the intuition really wakes up, because you're not afraid to listen to it anymore. You made enough mistakes. You trust it now. You're not going to write it off as stuff in your head anymore. You're past that place in your wisdom development. You know what your own voice sounds like, so you know what their voice sounds like. What's the story there? What does it mean for you to trust your intuition and your instincts and stop doubting everything all the time? Follow it. Be courageous in that following. You're also old enough to hold it now. Sometimes you're going to see stuff you don't like. You can't run from it. Listen to the story. There's no need to fix it. You're not solving it. You're just witnessing it, just using it as a guide, where to go. You, ages 45 to rest of the time. It's a crown chakra. Once we've activated all of our energy centers, and balanced them, and aligned them, and recognized them, and attuned them, we spend the rest of our lives pursuing God. We can call it different names, but we're all walking there. What is God? Who is God? Is God real? Does God exist? Did God forget me? Who created me? There has to be an intelligence. What is it? Let me test it. Let me trust it. Let me have faith. Yeah, these are guidelines. So if you feel like you are on a faster track, go with that. This is general guidelines for human development. It's actually rooted in early psychology. If you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's the same thing. It's a magical overlay of that. What's the story with your creator, your source, your God? Just listen. I'm not trying to fix it. It's a guide. It might have medicine for you about those headaches, those vision problems. Just like that thyroid might be telling you something about your truth. Thank you for that, Stephanie. It's very sweet. So let's do one more scan up, starting at the root. Take your attention back down to the base of the spine. Ride that spinal cord all the way down from the crown to the root. Your earliest memories, what was going on there. To your early memories, 6, 10, 12, 15, becoming an adolescent, becoming a young man, a young woman. Early adulthood, middle adulthood, middle age, it's happening. By the way, if you're not there yet, keep going. You'll start getting some real good intuitive hits about what's coming for you on this track. So don't write it off, even if you're not there yet. Let's ride the track to the end. Just listen to the story. Not fixing, not changing, just using it as a guide. It's beautiful. I love that drum. It made me happy to play that for you today. So you might get these little echoey, like phantom pains that show up in these certain places that you haven't had pain before, as a little like ding, 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 right? Because your body's going to try to get your attention now. And so just tell your body, thank you. I received the signal. I received the message, right? And you should always dialogue with your pain like that. You know, I received the signal. Okay, I've got the message. Okay, I'm receiving the signal, because your body gives you pain a lot of times to get your attention and bring your attention to something. So did you find some interesting things? I feel kind of glowy. Woo! Interesting, right? Annette says knowing her intuition is far more accurate, right? It's always more accurate. It's always worth trusting. Heat at the sacral. So that's kind of showing up for some of you, right? No. So Julie's asking, what if you fall asleep? That happens. And this I know for sure. When you fall asleep during a journey, it's because they're knocking you out to get your full awareness, which you might think, well, I'm not aware if I'm asleep, but you actually are. You're paying better attention when you're sleeping. So that's partly why they knock you out. I love that. Yep, so just paying attention to what's coming up. Any kind of pain, discomfort, a cough, a sneeze, or whatever. Just paying attention to all of that. Okay, so I want to walk you through the tools, and then I'm going to teach you how to go in and start to work with what you found. This is good stuff. I'm really proud of all of you. You're doing really good work today. Okay, so we're going to begin by talking about the Vogel. So I just want to go through the number of sides, and Alexis, it would be really cool if after we go through this information, if you could make a meme of this and then post it into the group. I think people would probably like to have this kind of information at their fingertips. You'll see the number of sides of the Vogels taught differently in different places. This is my interpretation, but this is based on my experience because I've worked with different sides of Vogels over time. But we will make sure we get this information to you in a way that's easy for you to access and to pull up when you want to do your own research. Or let's say you're going to buy a Vogel and you're like, I don't know, it's got 12 sides. Do I want that? You may want to have that information accessible too. Interesting. Oh, I'm so glad Karina's holding on to pain in the back lung area from heart trauma, which, by the way, remember, the middle back is still your heart. A lot of times the middle back pain, that kind of crunchy pain, is also heart energy that needs to be moved. Very, very interesting. Okay, so you sometimes find Vogels that are 4 sides. I have not worked with a 4-sided Vogel, so I'm going to start teaching you at 6 sides because that's the smallest number of sides of a Vogel that I have worked with. And again, what characterizes a Vogel as opposed to just a double terminated crystal, okay, because this is really important for you to know, is that it's wider at the top, which is the feminine end, and it's skinnier at the bottom. Whereas just a plain double terminated crystal is uniform. Does that make sense? And that's again because Marcel Vogel had lucid dreams about the Kabbalah tree of life, which is wider at the top and more narrow at the bottom. And so he created this design to honor the tree of life, but that's what separates it from a regular double term crystal. I just want to make sure you knew that because that's super, super important. Okay, a 6-sided Vogel balances opposing forces. And if you think about it, it's the Star of David, which is actually the symbol of the Hermetic principle, as above, so below. The idea that what's here on earth is, you know, a mirror of what's in heaven, and what's in heaven is a mirror of what's on earth. Same thing with, you know, what's in me is a mirror of you. I'm the same as you, I just look different, but really I'm you. And you are me. You look different, but we're the same. I think quarantine has taught us that more than almost any other experience we've had as humans, right? How similar we are. So that's what the 6-sided Vogels represent. So if you're trying to balance energies, or let's say you've got a client who, or you feel this way, where they're like, I feel so stuck in my masculine. You know, I'm feeling like ragey, and I'm feeling like focused on tasks, and I'm feeling like I'm in problem solving mode and it's stressing me out. And I just want to get back to my feminine. I want to feel more fluid, more flowing, more receptive. Does that make sense? Then that's why you'd want to use a 6-sided Vogel to balance those energies. And that's just one example of balancing opposing energies, but it's really about unification of light and shadow, of masculine and feminine. It's an integration tool. Does that make sense? So that's why you would want to use a 6-pointed Vogel. An 8-sided Vogel is for infinite healing. The number 8, and this is why all of your extractors were carved with 8 sides. So this is really an 8-sided Vogel. it's a double duty. It has the wider at the top, narrow at the bottom, so it has the qualification of being a Vogel, because that's what it is. It has the number of 8 sides, which is infinite healing. It's also infinite awareness, what some people call the meta awareness or super awareness. And so this activates a higher level of awareness of frequencies, energies, and also ways to create healing. So that's why when you work with your extractor tools, they're so powerful, because they're activating that infinite awareness and infinite healing. Does that make sense? Yeah, so all of them have 8 sides. This is the tool for this month. And then these are the original ones. And then this is another one that we had, was an aventurine. They're all 8 sides. Yeah. Vogels do have to be double terminated. Sorry if I'm confusing you. I just wanted to explain why they traditionally have a wider top and a more narrow bottom, and that's to represent masculine and feminine. So a double terminated point like this can move energy very fluidly, very easily, but it's typically not used for extraction because of the fact that it doesn't have the wide and the narrow. Now, it does not have to have the wide and narrow if it has the number of facets of the sides. The wide and narrow is more traditional, but if it still has 8 facets, if it has the 6, 8, 9, 12, 13, 16, or 24, technically, even if it's not wider and narrow, it's still a Vogel. Does that make sense? What the wide and the narrow tell you is masculine and feminine. And that's about which side is best for gathering energy and which side is best for releasing energy. Does that make sense? So the extractors are not double terminated. That's why I was saying earlier, they kind of function the way the Aztecs were using tools. They're single terminated, right? So they gather here and they send there. But because they're able to gather energy, you can still remove energy from the body with them. Does that make sense? This is kind of complicated, but I hope I'm making it clear enough. So these are not double terminated, but you can gather and release. Release, which is what the Aztecs used to do with a single terminated wand. That's why earlier in class I was showing you this, because this would be an example of the kind of tool the Aztecs used they would move from the top of the head down the arm through the palm, and then from the top of the head down the arm over the other palm. Let me know if you still have questions about that. Okay. So yeah, so you're looking for the number of facets on the side. So if you have a double terminated wand, that is 6-sided, like this. You can certainly extract energy. This could be used to balance and unify opposing forces, just like I just taught you with a 6-sided. The only benefit to having a wider top is that that tells you which side is feminine and which side is masculine. Now, I think if you worked with this tool long enough, it would probably teach you which side is feminine and which side is masculine, because everything is polar. All crystals have a polarity. So even if it's not carved that way, you could still work with the tool and discern, you know what, this end tends to be the receptive end, and this end tends to be the releasing end. Over time, like, there'll be a hand feel you'll start to notice, because your crystal does have different energies at the poles. Okay, so 6-sided, balancing opposing forces, 8-sided, infinite healing. 9-side, which you do see sometimes, is completion. Completion. Yeah, your February tool was a 6-sided double term, but not Vogel. It was uniform sides. Remember that tool from February class? So that was not technically a Vogel, because it's not wider at one tip and narrower at the other, but it is 6-sided, and so you'd be able to use it to balance energies. Okay, good. 9 sides is for completion. It's also for closing energies. So if someone's coming to you and they are trying to clear energy from a breakup or from being fired from a job, or I don't know, think of other closures in your life, having to, I don't know, close a business or close something else, that would be a 9-sided Vogel to release that energy, because it represents closure. Even a 9 life path number is the number of, usually about of the end of the human life cycles. 9s and 10s tend to be the ones who are on their last lifetime. They also tend to be the spiritually enlightened people. Life path 9 tend to be some people call it a monk profile. It's sort of like, those are the people who don't mind being socially distanced. They like being by themselves. They're very meditative. They're very reflective people. So if anybody has a 9 life path, my brother's a 9 and he's such a 9. You know what I mean? He's very zen. He's good spending time alone. So that's what 9 represents. 12-sided Vogels, which is what the one I'm giving away today is. This is a 12-sided Vogel. 12-sided Vogels are for cycle completion. And so that includes rite of passage ceremonies or any trauma around rite of passage. Could also be trauma related to certain ages in life can be released with a tool like this. Some of the work that I'm doing from like adolescent stuff that happened, because one of the biggest energy blockages that I've worked through in my life was being bullied when I was 11. And it was a really terrible experience. And if you've ever been bullied, you know what that's like. And I still have solar plexus stuff around it to this day. And this would be the kind of tool that I would use because it's a cycle, right? Like that was a cycle of time, a cycle of age, a cycle of an experience. And so releasing cycle energy would be powerful for to do with a tool like this. Yeah, if you've had that experience, I mean, I'm sorry that you had it. I don't wish it on anybody, but it is something that can be healed over time. And it's something that I personally have worked on for a really long time. I think a lot of us were, actually. Can you imagine growing up in an era of social media? Like, I can't even imagine. Okay, and then 13-sided wands. I think about that sometimes. Woo! 13-sided wands are lunar cycles, which is a little bit different. A 13-sided wand can be used for not just removal of energy, but actually can be used as a manifestation tool too. Some people call it the year and a day or lunar wands because it represents the completion of lunar cycles. That can also be a really powerful tool for extracting energy around anything that has lunar meaning. So that could include childbirth, trauma around childbirth, trauma around relationship with the mother would be another lunar issue that could be resolved with a 13-sided. They're harder to find. There's not a lot of 13-sided Vogels out there, but they do exist. The 16-sided is for multidimensional healing. Also really good for, so all of these 16, 24, 33 and above have what Vogel would say is a more intense frequency and can be really powerfully used for distance healing. This is good if you're going to be working with someone who's not in the same room with you. And some of you do have remote clients that you do remote work with. And so the greater number of sides tends to be, by most people's accounts, better for multi and interdimensional healing work that you might do. So Brittany has a 16-sided Larvikite wand. I'd like to see a picture of that. Sounds really beautiful. So that's a multi-dimensional healing. Some people look at the 16 sides and they think of it as the 8 plus 8. So it's like double infinite healing potential. I have one friend who really believes that, like the 16 is like the double 8. And because 8 is considered to be the number of infinite healing possibility, because the 8, right, is that. And also represents prosperity or an abundance of healing solutions. And so that one particular person always says that the 16 is the 8 plus 8. So if you have a 16-sided Vogel, some people consider that to be a very, very powerful tool. 24 is considered to be a number of sides. I haven't worked with a 24 in particular, like not that exact number, but people talk about that as the manifestation of healing. I think that they're all for the manifestation of healing, so I don't know that 24 is that much better. Some people, though, there are 33-sided Vogels, and some people see that as the double Christ consciousness. Some people refer to it as the double helix, that it has some extra layer of Christ consciousness energy attached to it. Again, I don't know that I've had that specific experience, but thought I would put it out there for your consideration anyway. And then, so then the rest of them, what you want to do is look at the numerology of that number. And then what most people do when it comes to sides of Vogels, if it's more than like 33, they'll start dividing it down and see how it comes out to, is it 3 3s? Is it 9 9s? Is it, and they try to sort of discern the meaning of it based on the number of multiples of sacred geometry that are there. Interesting, right? Okay. So like I said, that's Vogels. Your extractor needles are 8-sided. And then your Danburite crystals can just be worked with as they are. Some people are lucky enough to have double terminated Danburite crystals. Those are very rare and hard to find. So you can always make a wand, or I was lucky enough to find a wand. You can always make a wand too if you want to work with Danburite as an extraction crystal too. Okay. So extractor needles, the way they work, I've got so many crystals sitting in front of me, is they create an energetic response. And you always want to work in circles with your extractor needles. You're basically priming the pump. You're preparing the body to release the energy. And so you're activating the chi lines, or the meridians as we call them, which are the primary lines or channels. It's like the freeway of energy in your body. And so when you work with your needles, you're opening up those lines, which allows for greater flow of energy and helps to release the energy. On my massage table, if I get over there, because I might not even need to go there to show you how I'm doing our work today, but I have the weird baby up there. And next, that's what that doll's called. She's called Weird Baby because she's Weird Baby. But my mom gave her to my daughter, and she's very special. But next to her, I have copper spheres. And one of the reasons why you may want to incorporate copper into the work that I'm teaching you tonight is copper conducts energy. So if you have a client, I mean, if you're working on yourself, it's hard to do all this and be holding copper. But if you're working with a client, remember how I taught you to put stuff in their hands, gives them something to hold on to, but also the energy of whatever that is comes into play, comes into the work that you're doing. So the copper allows them to continue to run the energy while you're moving energy around. It just creates an additional layer of opening for the channel. So that's why I had copper spheres up there to show you. But you can use copper cubes, copper eggs, copper, tumbled copper if you want. If you have pieces of natural copper, it can hurt you. You got to be careful because natural copper is really sharp. But whatever form of copper you have, Nathan's got his tools sitting in a copper bowl, which is great. The copper Merkabas are great because again, Merkabas are literally a symbol that represents the movement of energy, especially interdimensionally. So you can never go wrong working with a Merkaba in any way when it comes to energy healing. It is such a powerful tool because it really is, it's a visual representation of the soul's ability to move between dimensions outside of the body. And so that's why it's so powerful. A 6-sided pyrite wand, sure, I'm into it. I don't know about pennies. What's the proportion of copper in pennies? I tend to work with pure copper. If you don't have any pure copper, you might want to consider getting some. You can even find tumbled, like just little pieces of tumbled copper. It tends to be expensive because you want it to be pure, so it's heavy and it tends to be costly. But you can find places, I don't have them anymore, but we had like little tiny copper eggs at the shop this week. Those are gone, but you can find little pieces of copper. It might just be good to have a pair of them down the road in your collection if you find them at a good price and they resonate with you. Oh, for sure. Your little diamond double term quartz from the January toolkit should always be in use. I mean, that's basically almost the same principle, right? The only thing you can't do with those is clear the energy out. So, but you can use those to activate the energy lines. And that's why when you hold them, remember I taught you the mudras? So depending on which fingers you hold them between, you activate those energies too. And that's another, these are all layers of different, like I said, tools in your toolbox that you have to be able to do different things. That's very interesting. So Debbie's got her copper Merkaba on her throat right now. It's a good place to have it. Okay. Let's see. They also help you create a vortex of energy on the body, which supports the release of old energy. I did want to say briefly, the Dambarite, the reason we work with Dambarite is it's part of what's known as the Synergy 12. And that's thought to be the most powerful crystals on this planet at this time. And each one of the Synergy 12 crystals has a different job that it does. Like the Tanzanite is the third eye member of the Synergy 12. So that opens your third eye, helps to enhance psychic visions. Dambarite is the surgeon of the Synergy 12. And so you can always try, like with a tool like this, I've used this on the back of my neck when I have a headache to move it. And it feels good to make physical contact and sort of pushing into the spaces where you have the headache. I do have a headache today, so that's why I was like, it might not be a bad idea just to... And then you can kind of like tuck it, you can push the crystal in and kind of find your comfort with it. Because it has a nice flat termination, so it feels good. And that becomes a really nice massage that you can do on yourself or on anyone else, if anyone has a headache. Start doing that, and then you're going to find your partner going, hey, where's that Dambarite? Why don't you leave that Dambarite here? It is kind of fun when your partner starts asking for your tools. You still have that Damberite? I have a little bit of a headache. And be like, well, are you starting to believe? No, I don't believe it. I just was wondering if you have it. And the rounded tools, you know, which I have in, you know, we have it at the shop, and I have a collection of them here at home too. The rounded ones that are just completely round are also really good for rolling energy through, like a massage. Again, it's not the same thing as what we're talking about tonight, which is really dense, stuck energy, but for moving energy in general, those are fun. Okay. I'm just making sure I've covered everything I wanted to tell you. Quartz is a transmitter. The number of cuts attunes the frequency. Okay, so according to Vogel, and then I'll move on from that and we'll begin doing the actual physical body work. According to Vogel, it's the number of sides plus the clarity of the quartz that determines what he called the spin. And so the higher and tighter the spin, the more powerful the energy flow through the body, through the system, and the more likely you are to be able to clear energy. And so that's why he worked with super, super clear quartz and then sort of counted the number of the sides, and then they had to be sort of measured at a certain degree. One thing, and I'll say this, and you could go down the rabbit hole. This is one rabbit hole I have not gone down yet. But he believed that the crystals, by being carved at a certain degree, aligned to the frequency of water. And he felt that water was one of the most healing tools that we have as humans on our planet. So he really wanted to connect the energy of the Vogel crystals to the energy of water for purification and flow and movement of energy. And so I thought that aspect of his work was really interesting. I think it's interesting to me because he was such a revered scientist in his own right and such a powerful engineer who was taken really seriously by his peers at the time. And then to be talking openly about lucid dreams and the Kabbalah and the tree of life and the frequency of water and all of that, I think it's really interesting that this is one of those places where our work with crystals kind of bridges the metaphysical and the scientific and shows you that there have been people in the past who really took this crystal work very seriously and still were revered in their fields as scientists too. That's a great question, Kelly. Why don't you try it? She said, I have a pendulum that's six-sided. Could I use it for extraction? Give it a go. I mean, one of the things I'll tell you too is you're going to learn a lot as you go. And you're going to develop your own kind of tips and tricks and modalities. And what works for me may not work for you. What works for you may not work for me. And so when it comes to all of this, what I'm giving you tonight is hopefully some inspiration, baseline of knowledge, a little bit of a cheat sheet around number of sides and things like that, so you know what you're doing. Understanding the basics of the architecture of the stones, right? Which side is feminine, which side is masculine. I think it's funny that the feminine side is bigger than the masculine side. I'm not going to spend a lot of time making jokes about that, but it does make me giggle just a little bit. But that's because the feminine is receptive. So we create a big container and then the masculine penetrates in a very focused way, but it's smaller. I agree with you. I love it when science and metaphysics merge. You know, it for those who are skeptical, it gives us kind of a way of talking about it. It's like, really? Well, if none of this makes sense, why did Vogel believe it? It's true. Okay, so to begin, what you want to do, I always begin my work with my extractor needle. Before I go in with my Vogel or before I go in with my Damberite or anything else. So, well, I'm a scientist by training too. You know, I have a PhD, so I'm trained in the scientific method. So I do believe in like experimentation and having a hypothesis and testing your hypothesis. Like I believe in all of that. And that's why I'm saying, that's kind of why I'm teaching you what I'm teaching you tonight. Like everything I'm teaching you has been inspired by teachers, but a lot of it has been discovered just by myself over time doing the work. And it's worked for me. You may have to adapt some of this, create a hypothesis, test your hypothesis, gather some data, figure it out, you know, and over time you're like, well, with my clients, it's a little bit different because X, Y, and Z. And I think that's great. because it's not really one size fits all. Although I do think that there's some static truths to what we've talked about tonight in terms of quartz being an amplifier and being able to, you know, be programmed to a certain frequency and to be able to attune based on the sides and the number, like, does the spin of the frequency increase with the number of sides faceted? Scientifically, I think it does. So there are some static truths to what we're talking about too. But your intuition's always right. I would trust your intuition over me. That's why you have it. So you can gut check what works, what doesn't work. Okay, so I'm going to be working on my shoulders tonight, because that's where I have the majority of my issues, physical issues. I don't really have pain in my body physically other than my shoulders. And it's mostly my right shoulder. So from here to here. So given that, and then I'm going to do a little solar plexus work too, just because that little icky sticky stuff from middle school came up a little bit in my drum journey. So I think I'm going to do a little solar plexus work too. And I'm going to focus on doing the work on myself, because it is weird to do it on a plastic doll. And also because I don't have a lot of live humans to choose from, because we're quarantined. So I'm going to show you how to do it on yourself, which is more helpful anyway. Okay, so my shoulders are upper body. Crystal's got a torn rotator cuff. I just have so much sympathy for you, truly. Shoulders all day on her left for Teresa. Okay, so figure out which side the pain is on, where you want to focus. I'm going to focus on my right side. And we're going to start by, since it's upper body, I'm going to do my hand. If it's lower body, I was in the garden today, so my feet don't look so cute, but you know, it is what it is. If it's lower body, you're going to do this on the sole of your feet. If it's above your shoulders, you're going to do this on the top of your head. The process is the same. You're making a circle. Ideally, you're going to go from east to north, like you're opening a ceremonial circle. Okay, so you kind of have to situate where you are. Now, when I'm doing this quickly, I just go bottom of the palm around. But if I can be intentional about my directions, I try to do that. So orient yourself to east, and you're going to go clockwise. Ready? If you can't get your foot to your hand, like if you can't touch it, then use your hands instead. Your hands can be a proxy for your feet. You don't have to do your feet. Your feet's kind of like being an overachiever. You don't have to be an overachiever. No, we're not opening a portal yet because we're not removing any energy yet. That's the next step. So we're just priming the pump. We're getting the energy ready to flow, okay? And you're just gonna go in a circle, and you can go as tightly as you want. I go pretty tightly. I'm making a lot of what they call perforations or indentations into the field. And basically you're just activating the energy. And over time, I'm very attuned to this because I do this a lot. Over time, I can almost immediately feel a release of the pain. Like I can already feel it in my shoulder. And I'm gonna go around a couple times. Like it's an instant release. It's the craziest thing. Because again, you're activating those meridian lines for energy to flow. Did you feel it? It's crazy, isn't it? And if it's feeling good, I mean, you can keep going. I'm not going to go all night long going around because I have other things I want to show you and do with you, but yeah, and the fingers get tingly. I like it. And then when you're done, stop there. And then I take the thumb of the other hand and push it into the palm of that hand. Same thing if I'm doing my feet. So the neck would be the top of the head. So again, you'd want to orient yourself east. Be gentle. It feels good. I mean, I don't know if you like it, but it's like an addiction. Sometimes I crave it. Yeah, try it with the Vogel. Why not? I always use my dominant hand. It's a great question. Yeah, it is like EFT on steroids. come back, and then, okay. So that just gets the energy moving. Do you still feel the energy flowing through the palm of your hand? As I do. It's almost as strong as if I was still going. Do you feel it? It does make your hair cute. It gives you a little poof. It's intense, right? So sacrum pain, I would probably do sole of the foot. I just had it. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. I would probably do the sole of my foot. And if you just want to do the sole of your foot anyway, just to feel it. Woo! Makes me jump. It's so powerful for activating your reflexes. That'll wake you up. In the center is where you push with your thumb, in the center of that circle. Feels good, right? You want to see the foot? That means I get to do it again. Isn't that fun? Oh, you're into it. And I don't doubt that you're feeling it, even if you're not doing it. That's how energy works, right? No, it doesn't matter. And even if you don't feel it, because I have a little bit of nerve damage in my right hand, so it's not as strong on my right hand as it is on my left hand, Tammy, doesn't matter. It's still working, even if you can't feel it. That's a great question, though. Woo. Okay. Now, once we've done that, and you've decided where the energy is that you want to remove, this is where we set our intention. And it is important if you are doing, if you're going to open a portal tonight, it's best if you can do it with a double terminated crystal. And I like to open the portal with the same tool that I'm going to be extracting with. Part of the reason, and let me tell you, and by the way, we're probably going to be over time tonight, so bear with me. I'm going as fast as I can, but I also don't want to rush. We don't have that much longer to go. I don't like to leave portals open very long. That's part of the reason, like, you might be thinking, well, couldn't you just open a portal before you, like after you open your circle, couldn't you just open a portal? A portal, if you believe in portals, which I do, is a hole between this world and the other world. And I open them carefully, I ask them to be tended carefully, and I try to close them as quickly as I can. I do not leave portals open. I've only ever left a portal open once, and it wasn't a fun experience. I don't recommend abandoning portals accidentally or intentionally, okay? Yeah, so I'm teaching you a safe way to do it, but what I will tell you is try to do it as late in the process as you can and close it as quickly as you can, because I do believe in interdimensional situations. Obviously, I wouldn't be sitting here teaching you about this today. Okay, whew. Yeah, you totally can. Alcohol wipes are okay on almost all of your crystals. In fact, there's really very few crystals that won't allow for alcohol wipe, especially if you're just wiping quickly. Even stuff like aura, because aura bonding is you know, has happened at such high temperatures that alcohol isn't going to rub it off. Oh, that's so cute. Riz wearing the same pants I am. I like that. Yeah, these are from SG a long time ago. Okay. Now, I always open a portal to my right. I don't know why that is. It's just how I do it. I've always done it that way. And what you want to do is you want to open the portal clockwise and close it counterclockwise. And before you open your portal, you want to set an intention. Remember, you're already opening a portal in a circle, so we already have that layer of protection. So this really isn't an unsafe thing. You just don't want to have it open for a long time, and you don't want to leave it open. Okay, so let's set our intention. My intention tonight is to heal my shoulder and also to balance and align my solar plexus. And I am setting the intention to release any stored trauma or energy from my shoulder, and also to release any stored trauma or energy from my solar plexus. Yeah, and truly, Casey, like if you start doing this and traveling doing this, you're not going to want to pack 9 different tools. So the fewer tools you can have to do something like this, in my opinion, the better, right? Because I always open circles. I mean, other than like my circle with my selenite, I always open circles, energetic circles with double terminated tools. Because they're transmitters and they're more powerful. It's like cutting a cake with a sharper knife. You know what I mean? Can you open it with something else? You can. Like again, an anathema or a sword. You could open a portal with an anathema or a sword. But I like to use double terms because they transmit energy in both directions. I love your questions, by the way. Can you use an extractor needle to open a circle? I haven't, but why don't you try it? You know what I mean? Like you will, it can't do any harm. It's just not what I usually do. So I always teach you like my way, but that's why I was saying earlier, like try it. It might really work for you. And then that's your technique that you do, which is fine. Yeah, so if you're left-handed, you're gonna go to your left side. It's your dominant side. I always consider that the power side. No matter whatever hand you are, that is the stronger side of your body. And so your energy is stronger, your potential to create healing space or a safe container is stronger. Everything is stronger on your dominant side. So go with that, whatever it is for you. Like Zoe's left-handed, so she always does everything to the left. Okay, you ready? So extend your arm, and we are going to open the circle. I usually will open the circle 3 times. With the intention, again, that you are opening this portal between worlds. And we open this portal with the intention of healing. And now I call upon some portal keepers, spirit keepers who can, or deities or energy streams or power animals who can come and help tend that portal for me to keep it open, but also to demarcate the boundary and keep it safe. So Kuan Yin is one who always comes forward. I feel her energy now. So Kuan Yin, thank you for keeping that portal space open and safe and tended. And then sense and feel what else is coming out through that energy. Who else wants to be there and tend that space for you? Who is coming forward? It's interesting. I feel like a Hera energy from Greek mythology, which is interesting. This is Zeus's wife. She usually comes in around home matters, but she can also come in around childhood energies too. She's very protective. I feel crow energy, which is good because that's messages, intuition. Maybe you can help with clarity about the source of that. Jaguar's coming up. Ox is an interesting one. Ox is very protective. Ox would be a good portal keeper, I think. Strong, protective, stands its ground, right? Deer is interesting. Archangel Michael is beautiful. Loki wants to play. We'll see what happens. And generally it's good to assign more than one. I feel like I've got Crow, I've got Kuan Yin, I've got Hera, I've got Peacock. I feel Peacock too, which is interesting because the bullying stuff was around like, you know, made me kind of shut down at that age and not want to, you know, it was like boy-girl jealousy stuff with another girl who was jealous of stuff, and so it made me like want to shut down. And so maybe the Peacock stuff is coming around like opening up and like expressing myself and not playing small from that time in my life. Morgana is coming forward for you, Hecate. Yeah, I think so. Well, ultimately, Melanie, that's what it is, because we're going to ask the portal keepers to take these energies, transform and transmute them into usable white light and send them to the 4 corners on our behalf. So portal keepers, that is our request. As we clear this energy, we ask you to take it, transform it, and transmute it into usable white light. And then to send it to the 4 corners of this planet and beyond, where it can be used by others for their needs and their purposes, and return to us as well in that form of usable white light if it needs to be returned. Usually it doesn't. Usually it goes, you can feel it pass through the channel and they take it and they do what they're going to do with it. We ask for complete removal and release of the energies that we're working with today. Clean lines, a clear release. We ask for physical comfort and release. We ask for emotional comfort and release. We ask for spiritual comfort and release as we do this work. Amen, aho, and so it is. Lion showed up for you. That's a good one too. Okay, so I'm going to start with my shoulder. And again, you're going to collect with this end and release with the masculine end. In with the feminine, out with the masculine. You're gathering up the energy here, and then you're sending it out that way. So that's why I was telling you, it's like a rocking, like an infinity symbol. Some people turn the whole tool and send out with the feminine end too, but it's more traditional to in with the feminine, out with the masculine. In with the feminine, out with the masculine. Do you want to practice that for a second so you sort of feel that wave of energy? It becomes natural to you. Well, just be in the moment, Christine. You know what I mean? Like, kind of release your need to know and your need to like have all this buttoned up. You know what I mean? Like, be open to energies and information coming through as you go. So I'm starting to move in. I'm actually really excited to do this tonight. I've been waiting for you to go in and begin to extract. And just get as close as you can to the place where you are trying to release the energy. In and out, and in and out. And again, just set the intention. Ask your spirit guides to lead your hands to go in with clear lines and clean release, and out, and in and out, and in and out, and in and out. Now, I'm going to take my left hand for areas that are harder to reach with my right hand, and out, in and out, in and out. I had to take a minute to make sure I'm heading the energy toward the portal. In and out, in and out. Okay. And notice, I mean, I am not kidding you at all. That is the farthest I've been able to rotate my shoulder in a week. Like in at least a week. I could not do that earlier today. There's no way I could have rotated that far around. You can use either hand. It's better to use your right hand. You're going to have a better flow of energy, but if you cannot reach the area with that hand, then you can go in with your other hand. Just make sure that when you release the energy, that it's releasing to the portal. You don't want to point the energy in a different direction. So if there's been trauma throughout someone's entire life, would you suggest working through one chakra at a time? Yep. 1 or 2 locations a session. We're not trying to like fix my entire life right now. We're just trying to help my shoulder. Right? Woo! Okay. If you want me to work on you, come closer while I've got the portal open. Yeah, my headache is gone. I'm gonna do a little work back there just to okay. Are you ready? In and out, 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 in and out. Give me your migraine, I'll take it. In and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, right? In and out. Lynn said, yeah, my heart's been having almost like cramps. Woo. And do you feel it? If you're doing it with me, do you feel the kind of flow? Like you really can feel the energy moving. And then you'll start to notice like denser pockets, easier pockets, where you're like, I think that's done. I think I need to focus over here. Like right now here, the energy feels very clear, but then on this side, like whatever of you guys is putting energy here, it feels denser. So then you can start to notice, and you can use your other hand as a channel to read that, right? Like my hand gets warm where it's dense, and then it's colder where it's clear. So then I can sort of track with my other hand to know where to keep moving. Ooh, yeah, right? And yeah, sometimes you'll feel the energy move right away. Sometimes you'll wake up in the morning and go, yeah, you know what? It's not that way. This amount of movement of my arm is like, it is literally shocking to me. If you had seen me 2 hours ago, I was like setting up the computer in here and I was having trouble raising my arm, like even like that. So to be able to like lift my arm straight up it's a little bit of a miracle. So how do you do so behind you? The best that you can, as close as you can, right? So the best that you can, as close as you can. It's not going to be perfect, but remember your energy field is 12 inches. It's a full foot. So as long as you're within that, that's pretty good. Otherwise, you can ask someone to come in and do the removal for you. You know, I mean, that's easy too. Oh, it can be done over a cast all day long. Energy doesn't know what your cast is. Energy's like, what is that thing? Yeah. And it flows where it needs to go. It really, really does. It's a crazy thing how accurate it is. When you trust the process, it's highly accurate. Whew. Now, Kuan Yin, Hera, Peacock, Crow, I ask for you to take this energy from us, from our collective, from me, from my body, from this room. Send it through this portal of light down to the 4 corners of this planet. Transform and transmute it on our behalf, please, into usable white light, sending it where it needs to go at this time, to whoever needs it. And now I want you to seal the portal. You ready? So, arm out. You opened it clockwise. You're going to close it counterclockwise, and at least 3 times around. And you'll kind of feel when that process is complete. And it's like closing a door. A door is closed. And then what I like to do, I like to thank them. So giving thanks to Kuan Yin and to Crow and to Hera and to Peacock tonight for coming and helping me release that energy. Kuan Yin, I would like for you to, before you leave, to help me choose a light keeper who can come in and infuse those places where I moved energy with pure white light. And so then I like to close my eyes and see who I feel like she's calling me to. Feels like Holy Spirit energy, feels like Mary energy, feels like she's showing me a dove too. It's very sweet, like a beautiful white dove. So that feels good. So I want to call upon Mary and the Holy Spirit and that beautiful white dove to fill any places and pockets in my field where I have removed energy tonight, to fill them with beautiful white divine light of peace, contentment, love, harmony, complete comfort, physical comfort, emotional comfort, mental comfort, spiritual comfort. I'm still in so much awe at my arm. Like, I really was not expecting that. The headache I was hoping for, which was like, but the arm. So thank you for filling those places with your light of peace and harmony tonight and healing. Give thanks. And we release all the portal keepers, including the light keepers. So we release Dove, I release Holy Spirit, I release Mary, I release Kuan Yin with so much gratitude, I release Hera, I release Peacock, I release Crow with so much gratitude. And sometimes I even I visualize them, like I vision the dove flying away and crow flying away, like as they just are released from the space. They've done their work. It's not hard for them. So with me and people that I work on, especially when I was doing more public work with people, because a lot of what I do now is private and people I know very well, but it depends on their tolerance for this. Like, I think people like to see the whole process. You know, in my experience, they do appreciate that. But if you're worried about them being like, who are you calling and why are you doing that and what's going on, you can do that part after they leave and open the portal before they get there, so that you're just removing energy. And then, but just remember, the thing is, you got to remember to close it. So if you feel like you get sidetracked or like you lose track of time or whatever, I just don't want you to forget to close your portal. We don't want that. Yeah. Jesus came forward for you. How sweet is that? I love it. And be open. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I'm surprised by the portal keepers who come forward, but it's always in a good way. It's like, oh, it's kind of cool that he came forward or she came forward or it came forward, you know, and a lot of you have asked me, like, how do I learn who my animal spirit guides are? See who comes forward, not just in Journey, but see who comes forward in these other kinds of ceremonies and these other kinds of energy practices that you do. This is another way for you to encounter who some of these guides are that want to work with you, that may not have known how to come forward for you under different circumstances. And by the way, you can continue that work. You can incorporate massage into that work. It's really nice. Like if you're working on a client, if I was working on a client and I was doing shoulder stuff, I probably would get some oil now with my rounder wand and just try to go in and just soften up the muscles too a little bit. Because it's kind of nice to give people not just an energy release, but also a little bit of a muscular release. It doesn't have to be anything intense and nothing super special, but even just a little soothing touch, if it's an area where you can touch yourself, a little bit of massage is really nice too, to incorporate into that. So that's how you can make this into a longer treatment, by incorporating a little bit of mild body work, playing some beautiful music in the background, incorporating the journey into the session too can be a way of making it into a longer session. Or if you have a client that's like, I want a wham bam, thank you ma'am, I want a 10-minute thing, then you do all of that. They get there, you work it out, you know, and then they leave, and then you do the rest of the closing ceremonies on your own. So I'm glad that was helpful for you tonight. Ooh, I think so. Julie Baxter. I think we're all going to need as much energy work as we can possibly get as we start to come out of this, when we come out of this experience together, you know? So I want to thank and release the guides and the guardians of the directions tonight. Releasing first, as always, the guides of the north. Guardians of Earth, thank you for your steady presence and your patience and your strength tonight, your protection tonight of our ceremonial space. We give thanks and release you with gratitude. To the guides and the guardians of the West, we give thanks for the really powerful flow of energy and the healing that came through. That's so much Western energy, water energy, learning how to feel flow in our bodies, sometimes for the first time in a long time. We give thanks and release you with gratitude. To the guides and guardians of the South, we thank you for strength and power and transformation, for helping us shift from one energetic state to another. We give thanks and release you from the ceremony space. And to the guides and the guardians of the East, we give thanks for the clarity that tonight may have brought, the vision that tonight helps us experience in a new way, for spaciousness in our bodies, to feel more comfortable, like we have more room to breathe and move in our bodies. We give thanks to the guides of the East and release you with gratitude. And that is Crystal Masters for April. Now, the one final thing, when I'm doing big old work like that, you usually only see me smudge at the beginning of a class. But when I'm doing big work like that, I smudge twice. Did you guys enjoy tonight? I hope so. I know it's sometimes kind of weird doing it from home. I'm not in my classroom with all my tools, but it felt like we had everything we needed tonight, didn't it? So just moving any additional energy through you, through your space, through your tools. So the oil incorporation piece is a really great question. And one thing I want to say too quickly about those oils. So before we started, I had anointed with Madre Tierra and psychic surgery. And so that's just a drop at your wrists, a little bit at your third eye, and a little bit at your ankles. The other ways you can incorporate this, especially psychic surgery, and this is why I keep mine in a little dropper bottle. I transferred it from my regular bottle to a dropper, is if you're gonna use this the way the Aztecs used it, then just a little bit on the bottom of your wand. And again, I mean, you can go through from the top of your head all the way through, but even just to the palms of your hands and out. Palms of your hands and out. Palms of your hands and out. Remembering that the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet are where energy, you know, begins and ends its movement, because this is how your body releases energy, is through the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. So that's another reason why it's nice to have the rounded edge on your extractors, because you can use them. I'm so ticklish. I'm only gonna do that foot once because it's so ticklish. I'm glad you like being home with me. It makes me so happy. I feel like my crystals are happy that you're here. I really, really do. I think I should do another drumming, just the drumming. So I'll put that on my to-do list, especially now during quarantine. I have some time and I love to drum, so I'll make a point of just doing a drumming video. I might actually just, when we're done tonight, I might just record it real quick. No, you're not the only one who's ticklish. Okay, so I'm gonna go post. I wanna thank you for being here, by the way. This is gonna be your enter to win from today's class. So if you don't have a Vogel, I'm gonna go post a picture of this in Crystal Masters right now. And if you've shopped today, because I know a lot of you got your obsidian extractor needles, they're at sagegoddess.com. Don't forget your code is flower19 for 19% off anything that's there. You don't have to buy a needle though, so it's anything at sagegoddess.com today since midnight last night or until midnight tonight. Comment on that post, and then I will come in and choose a winner and announce it tomorrow for this enter to win for our group. Isn't that fun? So be sure you go comment on that post though. I'm gonna go put it up for you right now, and then I'm gonna drum, and then I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I was really, really, really happy to see you today, and thankful for your presence. I hope that Crystal Masters is educational, but I hope it's also a little bit of a bright spot, you know, in these weird days and months that we're going through right now. My intention is that you learn some cool techniques to move and shift energy and to expand and to heal, but also that it brings some fun and something to look forward to and a little bit of a distraction. So cheers to you and all of that. Alexis and I are very grateful for you. And thank you, Alexis, for staying and for being there. Super grateful. So again, we will get all the notes from tonight, wrap them up, get them to you in a good package. We'll do a meme of the Vogel side so that you have that too. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys soon. Have a great rest of your evening. Cheers, everybody. It was wonderful to be with you tonight. See you soon.